we go. When we think about writing process, all right. We've done our brainstorming, we've come up with our thesis statement, and you've already submitted a draft. So now you're in the revision stage of this essay. All right, and it's a stage that's going to span 2 essays, but it is time to get started. So your task for your next draft, or most of you all, is to keep incorporating those examples. Or if I um made a note about your thesis statement on your first draft, make sure you address that, because again, it's such an important statement, in your essay. So just make sure that that statement is present. And then I think a lot of the essays did a lot of I'm sorry, I was just reading a text from my daughter. I think the essays, did a decent job of sticking to their thesis statements. But if you aren't, again, if I noted that on your essay, make sure you stick to your thesis statement. Again, just make sure every paragraph, is in service, to your paper's main idea. All right. Um, yeah, and again, now some of them went um a bit too far into like the summarizing territory. And mean, if you remember, like for the first when we first had this discussion, I warned you all, like, don't just don't fall into the trap of retelling, the entire book. Because you don't, that's unnecessary for this assignment. Also, it really does not address the prompt. Remember, you're just being asked to discuss, the ways that Trevor Noah, that his mother, show her love for him. So, that, if you have like unnecessary detail in your in your essay, try to get rid of that, because again, you have a specific task, to complete. Okay. Kind of looks like I'm glowing, but it's just the sun's hit me in the right place, I guess. Okay. Maybe I do have the glow, the last dragon.
Radioactive.
Okay. Hopefully I get superpowers. Okay. Or maybe I already have them. All right. All right. Now, okay. I have here something you can't see because I'm not sharing my screen. Okay. All right. Actually, though, just do this before I start sharing. All right. Cool. All right. Um, let's see if I can. Yeah. Hey, closing the shades. It's dark. I mean, when it's still so bright outside, but the shades. Isaiah, you back with us? iPhone, Isaiah. You're here twice. Okay. All right. Now, what I have in front of me, or in front of us, is a topic sentence. All right. And yeah, Isaiah, are you in two places at once?
That's because I'm trying to hear you and I can't. I live like 7 minutes away, so I'm just gonna log off and go home, and then I'll come back in like 10 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Because I can't hear you and I don't want to miss it. So I apologize for the interruption.
No, it's fine. Okay. Is anybody else having audio issues? Like in
No,
everybody else?
it's me. It's
Okay.
not them. It's not you. It's me.
Cool, cool, cool. All right.
Okay.
So I'll see you in a little bit.
All
All
right.
right. And you can watch the recording of what you missed.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry.
Mhm. And you know what, class? Just as I said that, I just remembered that I did not post a recording of Monday's class. So I'll make sure I get that up as well. Okay. But again, today I just wanted to talk a little bit more about developing your body paragraphs. And again, for the most part, there was some good body paragraphs in your in your essays, but I just wanted to cover this formatting style one more time. And uh, in some ways, we talked about the pie method for developing your paragraphs, and in some ways you can look at paragraphing as this formula. All right, whether you're using the pie method or whether you're using some other formula, but essentially what every body paragraph is going to have is a topic sentence that states the main idea. All right, and here's what we have here. And let me just stop right there. Hold on one second, folks. Sorry about that, folks. Just homeschooling complications. All right, so we have this topic sentence. Okay, and remember, folks, when you're crafting a paragraph, or when you're crafting a body paragraph, your topic sentence, it's going to dictate the direction of the paragraph. And if it's also, and like I said, last week, it's gonna ground your paragraph, so your paragraphs aren't like all over the place. All right, or there a good topic sentence can help you avoid like including unnecessary details in a body paragraph. So if we look at this, right, Trevor's mother may have been hard on Trevor at times, but she always supported him when he needed it most. Okay, so this paragraph or this topic sentence sets you up for a paragraph that's going to discuss a time when Patricia showed Trevor that she had his back. Okay, now some of the essays would begin with a topic sentence like this, but there would just be multiple examples of this. And the issue with including, multiple examples in the same paragraph is um, it's difficult to develop a paragraph if you're talking about this example very briefly, you're talking about another example very briefly. So instead of like putting multiple examples in the same paragraph, just include one and flesh it out. Okay, and flesh it out. So we start with our topic sentence, okay, and then we build up our example. And when I say build up, again, we're going back to that question we're asking ourselves: what does my reader need to know? Meaning, what do they need to know about this example that I'm going to incorporate into this paragraph? Okay, so let's go. Bam. I'm just pasting from this paragraph I did earlier. All right, I just want to build it little by little though. As a sixth grade student at Maryville Catholic School, Trevor unfortunately experiences being bullied. When a bully threatens to beat him up the following day, Trevor brings a knife to school to protect himself. So on some of your papers, I wrote, don't retell the entire book or don't retell the book. That's true, but when you're discussing an example, you're going to have to discuss some details of that example. Again, it's building up, it's showing, the truth, of this topic sentence, meaning how Patricia always had his back. Okay, so as a sixth grade student at Maryville Catholic School, Trevor unfortunately experiences being bullied. When a bully threatens to beat him up the following day, Trevor brings a knife to school to protect himself. All right. Now, what else does my reader need to know about this situation? Well, the knife, led to Trevor being expelled from school, even though he was expelled in kind of a roundabout way. All right. So how can we say that in a concise way? Because again, we don't have to give like every single detail of that situation. So again, it's all going back to this question. What does my reader need to know? Okay. All right. A little bit more. Although Trevor said he had no intention of using the knife, the school's principal gives him an ultimatum after he discovers the knife. After he discovers it, you could say. Essentially, the principal tells him to either conform to the rules of the school or don't return. Trevor chooses the latter and is promptly expelled. That's it about that. Now, from there, all right, and I don't want this paragraph to run too long. That's what I'm thinking, as I'm putting this together, as a writer. I don't want this paragraph to run too long, and I have to get into this point, okay? Because, excuse me, I provided the context here, all right? And, excuse me, here's my topic sentence, and I provided the context for my example here. Now I have to get into the example. Now Trevor's expelled, right? And I'm sure, right, you remember how Patricia reacted to that. Now, I don't know about you, but if I got expelled in 6th grade for bringing a knife to school, I probably wouldn't be here telling this story. Meaning my moms would have flipped out on me, and probably buried me in the backyard somewhere. All right. But Patricia didn't react like that. Okay. Patricia didn't react like that. Again, more setup. All right. And I'm just pasting this to show you how, paragraphs are built sentence by sentence. All right. And I think now as we're moving to the second draft, we should make ourselves like more cognizant of every sentence. And one thing I try to communicate to student writers, try not to have filler sentences, in a body paragraph. Okay. Filler sentences are, sentences that don't really say anything. They just kind of take up space. Something like this. General experience being bullied. No one wants to be bullied. Okay. So if we look at sentences like this is what will fall into the category of filler. All right. Of course, right? Or excuse me. As a 6th grade student at Maryville Catholic School, Trevor unfortunately experiences being bullied. No one wants to be bullied. It can be very traumatizing and have lasting effects. Is this true? Yes. Okay. No one wants to be bullied. All right. No one wants to be bullied. And it can have traumatizing, or excuse me, it can be traumatizing and have lasting effects. But, is this necessary for this paragraph? Right. Or do we have to say something like this in this paragraph? Or should we just be sticking to our main idea? And again, I keep repeating this question, but it's a question that will help you avoid filler. Again, we're asking, right? What does my reader need to know? Okay. So try to avoid, all this little like the meta commentary, in your writing. Just keep it grounded in the book. And some of you wrote how strong Patricia was, how admirable Patricia was, and she was all of those things. But I think for our papers, we need to just stick to the facts, and we don't want any filler, in these papers, because when you think about it, 4 pages, it may seem like a long paper, but it's not really when you have a specific job to accomplish. All right, and the job is showing how you know Patricia showed her love for Trevor. Okay. So when you're going back over your paragraph or when you're going back over your essay, you're going to follow the same pattern of revision that you did for your instructor chosen essay, meaning you're going to start, with the entire essay. Okay. And when I say start with the entire essay, first thing I want you to do is check out your thesis statement, or really start with your intro. Okay. Did you start with an attention grabber? All right. And actually, the document that I was looking for before this class started was my common essay self-assessment. So when I create the assignment folder for draft number 2, I will put the another self-assessment up there. And it really, it's just like the first one, just kind of ask you some specific questions, but really starts off with that intro. Okay, starts off with that intro, attention grabber, title and author, some background, thesis statement. Okay. Again, don't need to give too many details in your intro. And you certainly, just to bring us back to our discussion here, you certainly don't want any filler content in your introduction. Okay. I think that's it's something that I try to communicate to really all of my sections, whether it's 1510, 1520, or whatever. It's just about writing, making sure each sentence counts. Okay, making sure each sentence counts. All right. So Trevor chooses the latter, and he's promptly expelled. Okay, now, all right. Bam. Hearing the news of their child being expelled from school would send most parents through the roof with anger, but Patricia supported Trevor's decision to leave. And we could even go further. And Isaiah, I just have this is a body paragraph that we're working on here. All right. So now, if we're again, we're thinking in the language of math, right? If we want to go back and check our work, Trevor's mother may have been hard on Trevor at times, but she always supported him when he needed it most. Okay, that's the idea that we need to flesh out in this paragraph. All right. Hearing the news of their child being expelled from school sent most parents to the roof with anger, but Patricia supported Trevor's decision. She certainly did. But now, all right, for one, I just want to applaud many of you for not only incorporating quotes into your essay, but a lot of them were formatted properly. So that was I definitely take my hat off to that. All right. The flip side of that is there were some essays where there was like over quoting in the body paragraphs. And one of the rules that you should keep in mind, not just about this essay, but any essay, your voice, meaning like you as the writer, your voice should always be the dominant voice in an essay. Always. All right. So, and when you overquote, you run the risk of losing your own voice, in your essay. And that's something you want to avoid. All right. And if you look at this paragraph, right, we're, you know, well over 5 sentences in, and we haven't even gotten to a quote yet. All right. But it's coming. Okay. And like I said before, don't think you have to have quoted material in every paragraph. But just some to one, like strengthen your ideas or support your ideas, but two, just on a like a practical level, you're going to have some quoted material in here just to show the reviewers that you have a good handle on how to, or at least you're starting to understand how to incorporate quotes into your work. So
So I have a quick question
yeah,
while you're on
definitely.
that subject,
Yeah.
because I was going to ask at the end, but since you're
Okay,
talking
no, it's
about it
fine.
now. Okay, so for the formatting, so I did mess one up, I think. Right here, you wrote on here where I put, I quoted his father's from Swaziland, or,
Yeah.
and then I put the Noah 27 right after it.
Uh-huh.
So even though that I added additional, like, you know,
Yes. Oh,
like
I remember that too.
text to that, I
Yep.
still
Always at
put
the
it
end of the
at the
sentence.
end, even
Yep.
though it's the quote was earlier. Okay,
Yep.
all right,
Always at
okay,
the end of the sentence. I remember that too. Yep.
okay, cool.
All
All
right.
right, I just already. Thanks.
Yeah. In fact, must be reading my mind. Bam. Okay. Trevor writes. Okay. Or you can even, you can take it further with your signal phrase. All right. Your signal phrase, you can be creative with it, or you can just go Trevor notes. That's fine. But again, if we're, back to this notion of like, having a formula. All right. Even though I don't like formulaic writing, sometimes it's necessary. Okay. When you think about the formula for like incorporating a quote into your work, there's three phases of it, or three characteristics or three elements, right? One is the signal phrase. Okay. And really this would be the signal phrase. All right. It really all of this would be, but really you just need like Trevor writes, Trevor notes, or you can get creative with it, or you get more descriptive with it, I would say. This Trevor describes how his mother had his back, and we could even go further. All right. But just how we had it when we first started, that will work as well. All right. And typically, I just use first name right now because this is kind of a personal book. But typically in your signal phrase, and this is for you guys in the future, but typically when you do a signal phrase, it's usually last name, or if the person has a title, like Dr. Noah. Okay, but that's more in the future. For this book though, I don't mind first name. I'm sure Trevor will be cool with it too. He seems like a pretty open dude about stuff like that. All right, but let me get this others. There we go. Okay, now that's one element, right? Or one ingredient. Okay, signal phrase. And then make sure your signal phrase ends with a comma, and then go right into your quote. All right. And when you're quoting something, just remember to, quote it exactly how it is in the book. And that means punctuation. If something is like intentionally misspelled, if the grammar is not, up to your standard, it doesn't matter. Always quote it exactly how it is. All right, from the text. Okay. And for this essay, and it's something I said when we first started discussion, but try not to paraphrase for this essay. And again, a paraphrase is just you're taking material from the book, but you're not quoting it word for word. All right. But maybe the structure of what you're saying is very similar, or even exactly the same as what's in the book. So try not to, if you're, let's, for this assignment, paraphrasing is fine, but for this assignment, let's just keep our focus on like quoting directly. And if you look at this, there's more to it, but if you look at this paragraph again, the quote takes up a very small um part of this paragraph. All right. The quote is just like two sentences of all this. All right. So again, it's back to what I was saying before about, letting your voice, or making your voice into the dominant voice in your essay. All right. And just a quick rule about quotes, they're always used as support, never to make points. Okay. Always use to support a point that you have already made. Okay. And this will be the point. Trevor's mother may have been hard on him at times. Okay, that's why you proofread. All right, hard on him at times, but she always supported him when he needed it most. All right, so that's the point that we made. So now our quote is going to support that point. Okay, and then this is a short quote. It doesn't, like I said, take up the majority of the paragraph. All right. So one element, signal phrase. Second element is the quote itself. All right. And then the third element is the citation. Okay. And there's a couple things I want to point out about this citation. All right. One, it's in parentheses, obviously, right? But let's see, man. Have any more good colors? Okay. All right. Let's see. No, okay. Here I just have the page number, but if you want to last name it, page number, that's fine. But again, just remember, when you're only using one source, your first citation, has to look like this. But like after your first citation, just the page number is going to be fine. All right. But if you want to go last name, page number every time, it's not wrong. All right. You just, I don't know, just typing a bit more than you have to. All right. So wrapped in parentheses, only the page number or author's last name, page number. Okay. You don't need this. Right. You don't need this. Okay. Or this. You don't need any of that. Or this. All right. Just the last name, page number. Okay. Also, what you don't want to do in your essay is this. Actually, I'm just going to put it. Oh, I can just put it right there. All right. You want to avoid phrases like this in your essay. In chapter 6, Trevor talks about blah 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 blah. Whatever he talks about. Again, you don't need to let your reader get that far behind the curtain, right? So instead of, in chapter 6, this and that happened, just go right into your example. Just go right into your example. You don't need any of that stuff, because this is going to tell your reader where it is. All right, this is going to tell your reader where they can find your material or your quoted material. And then also, it just kind of disrupts the flow of your paragraph. So don't let your reader behind that curtain. Okay. So now, okay, this is the pie method, right? Information. Move you guys out of the way. Okay. And now, what do we need next, right? We got our point, we got our information. I didn't mean to move you that far away. We got our point. All right, I guess John, you'll be the only one. We have our point, we have our information, but we're missing our explanation. Okay. Trevor describes how his mother had his back after he was expelled. If in a final draft, I don't know if I use this phrase, had his back. And I'm saying that because when it comes to audience awareness, and most people, I guess, understand the phrase, you got somebody's back. But I would just maybe, I would think about swapping that out in a final draft, but it's fine in a first draft. Okay. But now we need our explanation. All right. But more than that, she thought the school was overreacting. The truth is, she probably took my side against Maryville more often than not. Bam. Okay, let's see though. Let's do our math. Let's check our work. But she always supported him when he needed it most. Okay, Trevor gets removed from his school in a roundabout way. Certainly a time where you need where one would need their mother's support. And then our quote, it syncs up, with our main idea. The truth is she probably took my side against Maryvale more often than not. Okay, so when you're going back over your body paragraphs, check your topic sentence, and then check to see how your ideas sync up with your topic sentence. Okay. And then finally, our explanation. Okay. Let's make it nice. Let's make it official. Okay. All right, now let's pick up right here. All right. If you remember from last week, um, again, folks, don't start or end your body paragraphs with quotes. All right. Always think of a paragraph like as having, bookends. All right. Something right here and something right there. I don't know if you guys could just see my hands. Something in the beginning is something in the end. And then you have your information in the middle. All right. And your bookends, just remember, bookends always have to be in your own words. Your topic sentence, is going to begin a paragraph, and that's definitely in your own words. And then your explanation is going to end a paragraph, and that should definitely be in your own words. All right. So again, you're just reinforcing the idea from your topic sentence. Patricia could have sided with Maryvale and punished Trevor for bringing a knife to school and being expelled, but she chose to have her son's back, showing him that her love was unconditional. Okay. That's what all that meant. That's what all that meant. I'm gonna support my son. All right. Gonna support my son. And I was surprised when I read that. Okay, but don't put that in your paper. It surprised me that she's still with him through this whole ordeal. All right, that's great. Okay, that's great that you had that reaction, but no place in this essay. All right, so try to, again, just back to what I was saying before about filler statements. Things like this, commentary like this, don't need it. It shouldn't be part of your explanation. All right. Just keep it grounded in the book. All right. And these are great points for discussion, but just not in an essay where you're asked to complete, a specific job. All right. Trevor, or excuse me, Patricia could have sided with Maryvale and punished Trevor for bringing a knife to school and being expelled, but she chose to have her son's back, showing him that her love was unconditional. The incident at Maryvale was one of the many instances where Patricia showed her undying support for her son. Okay, so body paragraph, it tells it, it brings your reader full circle. Start with the topic sentence that states your main idea. Okay, use the body of your body paragraphs. Use the body of this paragraph to show how this is true. And again, folks, this is all you're focused on for this paragraph. Okay, that's it. and you only need one example. As you can see when I talked earlier about putting multiple examples in the same paragraph, um, would lead to your ideas being underdeveloped. This paragraph only contains one example. All right. But you know, it's fully fleshed out because of the details. Okay. Not every minute detail is mentioned in this paragraph, but you've given the reader, or I've given the reader enough, right? So they can understand the situation. And really, you know, what this paragraph is communicating to the reader is Trevor got expelled and his mom supported him. Okay. Mom took his side. That's essentially what this paragraph is saying. And again, it's just an example of this. Okay, she supported it. All right. So when you're doing your next draft, you know, try to think of your paragraphs either as, you know, using the pipe, try to think of your body paragraphs as, you know, in terms of the pie method, point, information, explanation, or, you know, you can break it down, topic, sentence, relevant details, but your body paragraphs must have these elements, or you know, they won't be successful paragraphs. Okay, emphasis here is on relevant. Okay, how do you tell whether something is relevant? Check it against this. Okay, check it against this. All right, how can you tell if you have filler? Ask yourself, what does this have to do with my topic sentence? Okay, or how relevant is this? Like if you have, you know, a statement like this: no one wants to be bullied. It can be very traumatizing. This is true, but do you really need this? Even on some of your papers, um, one of the comments, you know, I may have put on there is, or I just asked the question, you know, do you really need this? And I'm asking the question because I want you to decide. Okay, I want you to decide whether you need that tidbit, you know, that you put in there, or sometimes it's even a paragraph, or sometimes it's just kind of reflecting in your intro, when a little bit of reflection is good, but sometimes you gotta move forward. Okay, you gotta move forward with your intro. So intro, excuse me, attention grabber, some context where you include the title and author, and then thesis statement. Okay, and then when you get to your body paragraphs, topic, sentence, relevant supporting details. All right, or pie method: point, information, explanation. Okay, don't retell the book, meaning like you don't have to summarize the book. Actually, that's like the opposite of what we want for this essay. Okay, summaries are great. Summaries are a valuable skill that you will need as a student, but one thing that you're going to have to understand moving forward, all right, if you don't already have this understanding, especially when you guys get to the next English and the following one, you're going to have to know the difference from when you're being asked to summarize versus when you're being asked to analyze. Okay, these are two different practices. All right, they're both skills you're going to need, but you know, don't summarize when you're being asked to analyze. All right, and vice versa, of course. So this essay is all about analyzing. Okay, and you know, in this paragraph, is there some summarizing? Yes, but it's done with a purpose. Okay, it's done with the purpose, meaning it's showing my reader an example, really of the idea in the thesis statement. Okay, because all your body paragraphs, you know, they exist to serve your thesis statement. So if you know this was a fully realized essay, we could just check this body paragraph against, you know, our thesis statement to see if we stayed on point, you know, where we need to be. Okay, so for draft number two, okay, draft number two, there's a couple of things I want you to keep in mind. First thing, try to get to 4 pages. Okay, first thing, try to get to 4 pages. And a good way to do that is, and this is, some of you put like bullets in your paper, like at the end, letting me know, where you intended to go from where you left off. And that, that's great. Okay, just follow through. But I think that's a good strategy, for moving forward. But if you don't have, ideas of where to go, some essays, I put some suggestions of, things you can mention. But whether I did that or didn't do that, what you can do is look at your thesis statement and then start going back in your book. Okay, what's another example? What's another example of Trevor's, what's another example of Patricia showing Trevor tough love? What's another example of Patricia making, a sacrifice for Trevor? What's another example of, Trevor's mom letting him suffer consequences to teach him a lesson? All right, or whatever your main idea is, think and go back to your book and ask yourself, well, what's another example I can use? And then just set it up like this, describe it, maybe put a quote in there. All right, or 2 very short quotes, but describe it, put a quote in there, and then follow up with your own details, or excuse me, with your own explanation, and try to avoid these filler statements. Okay, and here's the truth about filler. When you're doing your final essay, at the end of the semester, filler, and I'm not saying this is true for anybody, but you have to remember the reviewer isn't going to know you like I do. So filler kind of gives the impression that you haven't read, the book. And summarizing kind of gives that impression as well. All right. And again, it's, I'm confident that, most of us are doing the reading just from, the assignments that we're completing. But again, the reviewer isn't going to know you as well as I'm getting to know you. So just try to, stay away from summarizing too much, and try to stay away from filler statements, in your next essay. All
Is
right.
the final essay on the same book?
Yes, final essays on the
okay.
same book, but and that's actually a good segue into, I want to talk a little bit about the assignment that I posted. But just a few more things about your draft number 2 of this essay. Okay. One, work on your thesis statement if you need to. 2, make sure you're staying organized throughout your essay. Make sure you aren't summarizing or retelling, the entire book. And try not to overquote. All right. And then, like I said in the beginning, try to get your next draft to 4 pages. And, if you want to go beyond 4 pages, you can, because that gives you a little bit of room to play with, if you have to get rid of some stuff. Okay. Which is, I've been talking about, adding, as part of the process of revision, but, subtracting or getting rid of paragraphs is also part of the revision process. There's an old strategy I used to teach for revision called like the fact check. Okay. All right. Fit, add, cut, test. Okay. Fit just means, you're checking all of your ideas to see if, everything fits together, right? You're looking at your paper as a whole. Okay. Everything fit together. Okay. Sometimes, and this can especially happen if maybe you're distracted, while you're writing a paper. You may have this paragraph that really doesn't fit, within the flow, of the grand scheme of things. Okay. And then add, see what details need to be added. Maybe an additional example of Trevor's mother, showing how she loved him would work. Okay. And then yeah, students always used to fight me on this one. Okay. Um, sometimes I do, add strikeouts, to an essay. But recently I just started asking, do you need this? All right, do you need this? Or, you know, if I'm able to talk to a student, I will just ask them, you know, hey, like why, like what's the purpose of this in your essay? All right. And if they can justify it, then it's cool. But sometimes it is just filler. Sometimes it's a paragraph that's a good paragraph, but again, just didn't pass the fit test. Okay. Sometimes it's a paragraph that, you know, strays away from your thesis statement. So when you're revising, you're asking yourself again, well, what needs to be cut? Okay. And maybe you don't need to cut an entire paragraph. Maybe there's just some parts of the paragraph you need to be cut that need to be cut. Okay. I think on a few essays, I may have suggested like cutting parts of a paragraph and then combining paragraphs, like maybe combine it with the one that came after it. Okay. And then test it when you're done, right? Now, after you did all this, the fit test, the add, the cutting, now you're just testing it. And testing it means like you're thoroughly proofreading it. Just to see like have I stuck to my thesis. This essentially is going to be asking or answering the questions that you would see on a self-assessment. Okay. But you know, whatever your strategy for revision is, you know, start at the beginning. Start by looking at your whole paper. Okay. Then look at it paragraph by paragraph, sentence by sentence. Okay. And then the final thing I want to say about your papers, with all that being said, everything I just said, also bear in mind that you're working on another rough draft, meaning there will be one more after draft number 2. So if this one's not exactly coming together the way you want it to, that's fine. But it's just about progress from draft number 1 to draft number 2, and then from draft number 2 to the final draft. All right. So yeah, folks, I will create the assignment folder, and then I will put um another self-assessment up. Okay. I just have to tweak it a little bit. There's some stuff I want to take out. Okay. Am I in the right class? Yep. All right. Now, in the week 9 module, okay, here you have this assignment, Article 1. Okay. And we'll do a couple of these. And John, you asked me about our final assessment. These assignments are the closest we're going to get to them. We'll do a practice final assessment within the next couple weeks, but until we get there, this is the closest thing, because your final assessment, John and others, it is based on the book Born a Crime. All right, that's essential. Okay, we have to have a working knowledge of that, but there's also going to be an article, and the prompt is going to ask you to basically put them both in the same conversation. Compare them, if you will. All right. And like I said, we'll do some practice, at least one practice final assessment. I try to squeeze in 2 every semester, depending on how we're doing for time. But this is, for right now, this is the closest we're going to get. So for the final assessment, the first part of it is, you know, just reading and annotating an article. All right, reading and annotating an article. And you know, I'm frequently asked, you know, am I annotating properly? And my response to that is, if your notes are helping you, meaning if they're helping you write your common essay, if they're helping you remember, you know, what happened in the text, right? If they're helping you make connections to other texts, then you're annotating the right way. So I don't give a specific, other than like text to text, text to self, and text to world connections, I don't give a specific format for annotation, because I want you to develop your own style of annotating that works for you. And I also want you to understand that finding a style that works for you could involve trying different methods of annotation. All right. So also about the midterms, if your midterm didn't come out well, we've already talked about it. Meaning like you and I have talked about it privately. But for the most part, though, with your annotations, and it's the same thing with your book. You know, I don't even when we're in face to face or in person learning, I do spot check books, but it's rare that I will read your notes. I just want to see that you are taking notes because again, I mean, there's a good chance I may not even understand your notes because they're they're for your eyes. It's the same thing with looking at my book. Some things are you may be able to understand, but for the most part, it's just I know what my symbols mean, or I know what certain codes that I use mean. So again, just keep practicing, developing your own style. But for these assignments, I can tell you one thing that is going to be or one specific thing that you can look for that will help you with your comment with your common essay, and definitely with your final essay at the end of the semester. When you're reading these articles, try to make connections to Born a Crime. Okay, you can put that in your notes. It's like, oh, this is just like Trevor, or this is if like with this article about Nelson Mandela, he fought against a lot of the conditions that we see, being discussed in Born a Crime. All right. And this one it gives a little bit more insight, into apartheid. So that's the first part of this. The assignment's actually in two parts. Okay. First part, just like our midterm. Take your notes here. All right. Now, all right. And remember, when it comes to annotation, always quality over quantity. Always quality over quantity. All right. There was pictures of Nelson Mandela that I removed to make it a bit shorter. Okay. Now, when we get down here, okay, there's some questions. Please respond to the questions below in your own words. I'm specific about that, like in your own words, again, because I want you just to get in this practice of, discussing the material in your own words. Be sure to practice using specific details to develop your responses. Go beyond one sentence answers. And this is just a rule for you all moving forward for any class. When you see questions that begin with discuss or explain, that instructor is telling you this needs to be more than one sentence or two sentences. All right. Meaning this response need to be adequately developed. Okay. You don't have to write an entire essay for each answer, of course. And then some of these questions are like straight to the point. All right. But some of them, require, an explanation. Meaning this first question, right? Like, how does, Nelson Mandela become Nelson Mandela? But then there's a follow-up question. What do you think? Okay. What do you think? Okay. No right or wrong answer there, but well, let me take that back. A wrong answer is one that is underdeveloped, meaning like it was good or it was bad or it was unfair or that was crazy. That those answers will be underdeveloped. Okay. Even if you think it was good, bad, crazy. Why? Okay. Why? Explain. Okay. Explain. All right. And you could either just do this to respond. Just start a new page right here. Actually, that would be your best way of doing it. Right? Just start a new page for your responses. Okay. And just like our reading questions, practice putting the question in the answer. Okay. Drop that in the assignment folder when you're done. All right. So back to our original discussion about the final assessment. You'll get an article that's a little bit longer than this. And then there's only one question that you have to answer in an essay form. Okay. So over the next few weeks, we'll do a couple of these practices. And then we'll do a practice final assessment where I will try to make it as close to the real thing as I can without losing my job. Okay. Technically, we aren't supposed to share details of the real assessment until, you know, the day of. Okay, you know, the formal name for it is called the impromptu assessment, and that's because you know, you do it on the spot. We're doing it a little bit differently since we're remote.
I guess,
Okay.
so do we
Yeah.
get time to do it, or it's like you have to have like
Yeah,
a
I
4-page
just posted.
essay done
If
in
we
that
were
day?
in class, like a face-to-face session, you would have one class period for the reading and one class period to put your essay together. But for this, since we're remote, I just post the whole thing and give you a date. It's usually a couple days.
Is it 4 pages in a
No,
couple
no,
days?
3 pages.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
3 pages, and I'll explain the details of it. But um, and I will go into this in more detail as we get closer to it. Probably in the next week or so, when we get closer to the end of our common essay. But your final assessment, when we evaluate them, we look at them as rough drafts, meaning we know you're writing them on the spot. We know you didn't know what you were going to be writing about until, you know, the document was right in front of you. Um, so we take all of that into consideration. What we are looking for in these essays is a sense of organization. And oh yeah, I said last week I would show you the eval sheet, but I'll dig it up and show it to you all in our next Zoom session. But the first category in that, in your eval sheet, is organization. All right, meaning like intro with a thesis statement. Thesis statement for your impromptu doesn't have to be perfect. All right, we just want to see something there. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be too complex, again, because we know you're doing all this stuff on the spot. All right, but we do want to see a thesis there, and then body paragraphs that, you know, follow through with your thesis statement. And I can tell you today that your, how can I word, your impromptu essay will be an article. Let me see, what can I say about it? I will say this: you're going to be comparing apartheid South Africa to a period in the U.S. That's what I can say about it now without going too far into it. But it's not going to be a trick question, right? We don't try to like curveball anybody on purpose. It's just going to be, you know, compare what you read in this article to what you read in the book in a way that's as most organized as you can. And I will show you how to organize your essay. Okay, before we do it. Like I said, I will tell you as much as I can. And maybe some stuff I can't, but you know, I'll make sure not to record that part. All right. I guess I shouldn't have recorded myself saying that. Yeah, I was just joking. All right. So here we go, folks. Draft number 2, due Wednesday. These questions, or this article in questions, Sunday evening. Okay, same with our reading questions. Okay. And then, folks, you know, don't stress out over this stuff. We're almost home. Okay, we're almost home. Okay, we can see the finish line, but we're not quite there yet. But it's certainly in sight. Okay, so for my folks who've been, you know, sticking it out, staying consistent, you know, just keep that up. If you've been struggling a little bit, you know, it's not too late to bring yourself out of the water. Okay, that's all I got today, good people.
I guess I was.
All right.
Oh, never mind.
Wait, what? Go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, I'm thinking the only reason, like, I was having a little bit trouble putting the words
Yeah.
on the paper because I feel like I was trying too hard. I don't know, because I was comparing it to the example you gave us, and I was just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
man,
Just
okay.
I think the example, John, is good for like formula, meaning just make sure your paragraph has those elements like topics and
Mhm.
you know, supporting details, or you can use the pie method. But like the content of your essay, that's, you know, that's up to you. That's up to you. Okay.
Okay.
And I think also, John, and others, you know, sometimes you gotta trust your gut. Okay. Trust your gut. And that's the great thing about writing, right? There's always the chance to revise. So trust your gut, and get draft number 2 together, and we'll do. I'll give you more feedback. Okay. But yeah, we're doing fine though. Just trust yourself. Okay, and try to get your next draft to 4 pages. That wasn't directed directly at you, John. That was for everybody. Okay, get your draft to 4 pages. Okay, we're okay though. All right. Oh, finish the book if you haven't finished it already. I've been meaning to say that. Okay, we should be done with it anyway, but
Did you
if you
say
have not
there's?
finished
Oh,
it, go ahead.
sorry. Oh, did you say there was going to be more reading questions? I didn't see that
No,
assignment.
we're
Oh,
changing directions to more of these articles.
okay.
So
Okay.
the last reading questions we did were the last ones. So now we're just going to look at a few of these articles and start, connecting them to our book.
Did you touch bases on the originality report?
Yes. No,
Okay,
I did. Try to
you
try
did?
to get it try to keep it under 20%. Okay. If it's over 20%, that means you're overquoting. I didn't say it specifically about the turn it in percentage, Isaiah, but I did talk about overquoting. Okay. So once I get the recording posted, maybe you want to rewind. But I was saying, like, when a student has too many quotes in an essay, your voice gets lost. All right. So
Yes.
that's why we went over the example where the quote, like, this is the only quoted material in this paragraph. Very short.
Okay.
Okay, very short. So yeah, don't overquote, and really the same thing. Sometimes students who overquote, it's the same thing I told John, just trust your own ideas.
Okay.
Okay, trust your own ideas, and then use quotes to support points, but don't use them to make the points.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. Thank you.
And then I had one question about overquoting. So like I have in one of my paragraphs, it's kind of long, like one of the quotes that I did.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like having the whole thing put more emphasis on the actual
Okay.
quote. Is that a problem?
No, but if there is an opportunity to to shorten the quote, you can do this. The truth is, put my own stuff in there. See how easy it is to add your own stuff to quotes? Against. Okay. So here's the first part of this quote, John. Now there's something in the middle that's it's not really necessary. So you can add our friend, the ellipsis. Okay. So the ellipsis tells the reader, I, the writer, have removed something from this quote. And one of the rules about using the ellipsis is just don't take out anything that's going to change the meaning of your paragraph. I think it's so weird to be typing that a principal hit a child. Okay. So if you ever want to shorten a quote, just use the ellipsis too. There was like about 3 or 4 lines, that I removed. So if you ever want to shorten a quote, you can use the ellipsis again. Just don't take out anything that will alter the meaning, of a quote. And not saying that you have to do this with your quote, John, but if you see an opportunity to shorten a long quote, use the ellipsis.
Okay, just for example, I just want to tell you, like, just I don't know if you even remember it, but it's like where it talks about where she
what's the page? Because I got my book right here.
54. It's the part where she teaches about the reason for her teaching him
Oh
English.
yeah. Oh
And then
yeah.
I put like all that language of money, comprehension, equated
Yeah.
intelligence, etc. And I put that whole thing just because I felt like I needed it because it explains it more. So where could I put in ellipses for that so it's not too long? Because in my head, I just feel like it's too
Are
long.
you?
I ended it starting English is the language of money, and then I ended it with uh, the English is the difference between going off with a fine or going to prison. I'd
Okay.
have to grab my book to unless you found it. Unless I put the wrong
Yeah.
page like a dingus. What's that?
No. Is it in your newest draft or is it in the one that I've already looked at?
I accidentally. Oh, did you pull mine up or something?
Yeah. Let me.
It's the one you've already looked at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
The
I didn't see any extremely long quotes in yours, or I don't recall any.
Well, you wrote good on there, so I don't know. It was fine
No.
if I did it. Okay.
Why don't you stick with it and then let me
Okay.
reevaluate it in draft number 2.
Okay. All right.
All right. So yeah,
Yep.
just don't get stuck on that one part. Just keep going.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right. So that's it, folks. Have a good weekend. I'm gonna create the assignment folder for draft number 2. All right. And if you got any questions, just get at me by email.
Alrighty. Appreciate it.
Have a good one, folks.